And now the Sacred Tears True Fix video. Bonford's personal ideas on what they would have preferred in this game. Usual disclaimer, this is just my opinions. If you prefer the game as it is now, then you're totally valid. If you have different ideas of what you'd like to change, I'd also love to hear that in the comments. I've also got to apologise that this one doesn't have as much custom art as the previous ones, because it's less about visual redesigns and more just the plot. I did at least give a vague try on what hypothetically a Phantom Thief outfit might look like for Seil, because I do still think one of the biggest plot holes is that he just doesn't disguise himself at all, and yet nobody knows he's Shadow Knight. I tried to make a design that's close enough to canon that hypothetically he could quickly switch between these two outfits while still looking distinct enough that you might not recognise it. I thought I don't know, the weird cape thing he wears, maybe he pulls it off and it turns into a scarf. But my heart really wasn't in it with designing this because I just kind of fundamentally don't like his basic design, and also I don't really have any ideas for how to redesign it because I don't think it's necessary. I don't think his design is a bad thing. I wouldn't want to suggest changing a massive thing about the game just because my personal preference in outfits. I do think it's kind of important that him and Seana have very stereotypical JRPG designs to go with how their personalities are not what you'd expect for that. Sometimes simpler is better, and if we went some weird hammy Bonford redesign, it just wouldn't work. But that means I just don't have much to draw, so for the rest of the video, let's put some random image on screen. Now, getting into the fixes. Part 1. Gameplay. Just throw the whole thing out with a bathwater. Switch the battle system to either an actually good and far more simple card battle or just a normal JRPG. Literally anything that actually functions. Basic default RPG maker even. Same for the leveling, the abilities, the equipment. It's all more complex experimental than it needs to be. Originality isn't inherently good on its own if you just change stuff for no reason, and importantly, don't play test if it actually works before publishing this for money. You've just wrecked your own game. If all of these things were more normal and boring, it wouldn't detract from the game at all. And that's terrible. Hypothetically, if they could make a totally different, actually original and cool battle system, that would be better than both, but I don't think they should risk flying so close to the sun again. Hey, maybe a half and half balance. You have a basic battle system as the base and have some cool quirks on top of it. Issue 2. Lean more into this being a Phantom Thief simulator. Make it not just a plot point with no effect on gameplay. Do more with this night and day mission split. Day missions could be normal side quests around town. They could be what we already have in the game. Or you could change it a bit, make them entirely battle-free. Saving combat for the night missions would be a quick and easy way to give each section its own unique appeal. And hey, while we're at it, let's make these quests a little bit more intuitive and less reliant on guides to find who the fuck you need to talk to next. Also less of a you did everything right and just fail in the cutscene endings. Ideally, let's take the big web of all the side quests, have a look at them, figure out which ones are actually important, and do a little bit of culling on the ones that are just a bloody shaggy dog story every single time. Maybe there could be more focus on raising your reputation around town and actually a progress of gaining higher level jobs as you go along. Maybe you can even see the town improving because of you. A good focus would be to show the orphanage kids getting a better life as the game goes on. Not just fixing individual daily problems that don't connect to each other, a real sense of societal change. The building gets fixed up, they get to go to school for the first time, the neighbourhood becomes less prejudiced against them for being poor. The infrastructure of the town district improves because of the cash you're stealing for them. If you want to commit to having actual visual changes, or if you want to just convey it through text in a plot, either way it would really give a sense that what you're doing actually matters rather than spinning your wheels until we finally find out what the plot is 2 chapters before the end. And it would work well to incentivize you to keep stealing and to take bigger risks in the night missions. If you get this sense that your thief job is so important, it could open up the opportunity for a massive low point where your secret identity is revealed and everyone turns against the orphans again, blaming them because they took your dirty money. You'd feel a real consequence for your actions and determination to beat the bad guys, prove them wrong, and regain a good life for your family. Then, the night missions could do infinitely more interesting things with being a Phantom Thief. Actual gameplay running across the rooftops. They teased us with that in the first fucking cutscene and never again. Or it would work so great, it's an instant way to have a night map be totally different despite being the same town. You navigate a different elevation of it. And maybe have all the shortcuts like the sewer only be available at this time too. You get a real sense of seeing a different perspective on the city. You'd have actual puzzles about finding the right route to get somewhere. Maybe you can't go down on ground level because you've got to avoid the patrols from Leon and co. You can have actual puzzles about finding the right route to get to a location where you know where it is in daytime. Now how do we get there in this new setup? There could be like different thief tools to open up new shortcuts, to navigate difficult obstacles. Maybe you have to plan out your heist in some kind of mini-game. You can have like a metaphorical map of the different ways it could go, and you have to plan like, if I want to go here, I need to collect this item, and that could be things you could be doing during the daytime. Make it feel connected. Or I don't know, just do literally anything that has any sort of tension, lol. Next section. That thing about saving money is a fundamentally appealing, unique idea. It gives a big goal to work towards for the entire game. It is just the execution that sucks. It is super weird, you can't actually gain money in any way except selling these very few sellable items in a weird merchant tax web. And one that's really hard to navigate because you have no reminders where each one is and who sells for how much, and one of them is just talk to a random tree. I think theoretically the idea of a game where you can only sell and never buy is interesting, but it just wasn't done good here, and again it could benefit from just, let's try a more normal idea and actually execute it better. Honestly, I think if it was a regular shop system with usable items, buyable items, you'd have a better dilemma of managing your resources. You'd feel the genuine type of tension that Seil would have saving for this goal versus, do I spend what I need now to make this mission easier? Do I risk going hard mode with no healing potions just for the chance to get closer to my goal? I think it would also help to have more frequent rewards for saving. It's very weird that the game says that saving will unlock bonus side quests, but you think it never happens until the very end when they all come along at once. I think simply spread them out a bit more to like milestone moments instead of the very end of your saving goal. I'm thinking a quick tutorial-y one at like 1,000. Then 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, and the final goal of 30,000. That's just spaced out enough to always feel there's one within reach that you're aiming for. And if they were all as awesome and heartwarming as like the cute orphanage sister pendant quests, then players would be totally hyped to face your money challenge and earn more heartwarming scenes. Also, can I just add in here, it's really weird that the game fucking started with a completely logical reason to have to save the money, to pay off a loan on a detective shop you just opened. But nope, resolved in chapter 1 and Seil just wants a cool sword now. All while he was lying about it and secretly he wanted to buy a ring for his girlfriend. It was still a cute, adorable twist, but I don't know, we could have just had that with a detective shop loan anyway. Actually, I paid off a loan ages ago, I was still saving for this! Remove the sword entirely, it has no purpose except being an excuse to lie about what he's really saving for when you already had one. I was also going to go on in gameplay about like not taking Seana out of the party for ages, but I think it's better to cover in the plot stuff. Speaking of which, the plot stuff. Section 1, Seil. Make him more like Phantom Renegade. I'm sorry this is very unconstructed for people who haven't watched Medabots, but just watch Medabots, this exact character, just take that energy and make it a game. Seil genuinely felt like that in the opening cutscene. Continue going to those comedic aspects from that great introduction. Don't just flatten him into nothing but man honor, most regular shonen hero. Like, really lean to the thing that I was complimenting him at the very start, the fact that he's like, not just a regular shonen stereotype, he's a guy who wants to be like the edgy Cloud or Squall type character. But he's actually just a fanboy and his real personality is like really chipper and goofy. That's something you get from Phantom Renegade. As well as him being able to genuinely pull off cool moments sometimes, and you're cheering because he's such the underdog. And also the way they ride the tightrope of like making you wonder throughout the whole series, is he good, is he bad? Does he have a secret reason why he's doing this thievery? For some plan to stop a villain in the end? Is he just lying about it and being a trickster? What aspects of his secret identity as Henry and his Phantom Renegade persona, what parts of those reflect on his true personality? Will we ever see him without the metaphorical or the literal mask? Will we ever see the Hikaru Agata deep inside? It's a surprising amount of depth to go into a purely comedic character. Watch Medabots. That is some thesis of this video. Watch Medabots. Anyway, back on topic. This Seil entire game we're going with, he's trying his hardest to be edgy and he's just too wholesome to manage it. He could have an ongoing plot of like learning a lesson. Now what's important isn't the superficial appearance of being a cool thief. What makes you really cool is like working for a heroic cause. His little siblings in the orphanage, they thought he was cool all along. Heartwarming end. More into this hypothetical new personality. This Seil would not be genuinely stupid. He is a dude who has genuine wit and talent for thievery, and it's just his delusional obsession with doing it a superhero way that always gets him in trouble. We also lean more into him being obsessed with the idea of Phantom Thieves as like heroes of justice, symbols of rebellion, rather than actually wanting a bunch of money or particularly caring. We could have more failures like, again, the really great introduction, where he loses out on getting the ring because he was doing too much showboating and he didn't really care about losing it anyway. That would also make a better reason for so many quests just like ending in failure, oh, we didn't get paid after all. Maybe it's because he insists on only stealing from the bad guys. He'll give back the thing he stole if it wasn't a fair fight. He only pretends to steal a thing from his best friend to bring more attention to the shop and help the business. He drops a real gem in a lake and just laughs it off because, hey, everyone still thinks I stole it, Shadow Knight still became more famous. Wasn't that a goal all along, Seana? Why are you so mad? It would also be more understandable why she's always pissed off at him. As opposed to in the actual game, it's honestly rarely his fault that they fail. Luck is just really cruel to them. If we went full-on comedic romp of his silly decisions always leading him into disaster, it would make you less mad when you fail, and it would also be great to see you starting to succeed more as the game goes along. Wait, honestly, in retrospect, why didn't they do that? Why do you just continue failing everything equal amounts from the beginning and end of the game? There is no sense of progression. Put some more actual successes too. Sprinkle them out, pay attention to like timing, how far apart they go, and more about the reveal at the end that all the money he was saving was secretly for a gift for Seana. Maybe we could keep at and like swap the roles of their personality who started the saving goal. Because even in canon, Seana starts the game giving you the saving goal, get the money to like pay off the loan on this new building we got for our job. It's just thrown out immediately, and Seil just finds another thing to save for. So let's cut that out. Fully switch it to the building fee being the main thing. Maybe even add a dash of personality and like early flirting of like, it's the building fee and the debt you're in for hiring me. Tsundere. So she's all grumpy about that for most of the game. That's a way to have like conflict and comedy between you and her. You want to do things for the heroism, she wants to prioritise making as much money as possible, and maybe the player can make the choice of which one they want to go for. She'd be the one who's managing all the finances, she'd be the one who's trying to save up for a goal. And then at the very end, she has the same reveal. Actually, I paid off our debt halfway through. I've been saving more money to get you this engagement ring, and we just play out the same scene but in reverse. It would honestly be even more unexpected and sweet coming from the tsundere one in the relationship. Or hey, we could just keep it the same as canon because it was already great. So now back to Seil. I think we also need to fundamentally rewrite everything involving his disability. Either have a player already know he's disabled from the start and like, you play the experience of trying to hide it from everybody else, or you can keep it a surprise but sprinkle more foreshadowing so we have a chance of figuring it out. Give Seil some moments of relatable experiences that people with real prosthetics go through. Able-bodied players in the audience might miss it, but for someone who has the same disability, it'd be a cool clue. Just as a random idea, maybe the game blocks you off from doing rooftop parkour missions on certain days. And if you pay attention, you'll notice it's always the same weather. Something that makes his prosthetic malfunction, like when it's too cold, like the feeling of it against his skin, it makes it hard to move. Or when it's too rainy, he doesn't want to risk it getting rusty because it's so hard to repair. Then after the disability is revealed, we can like continue making the disability a plot point. We can see him openly talking about it, going through disability experiences, having positivity in the plot. It's not like it just completely disappears forever once it stopped being a twist. And heck, if we still want to go with him having like internalized ableism, have a whole arc of him facing that and developing through it. Maybe by the end he's less ashamed of showing his prosthetic and you have a permanent sprite change. Or we could just address the reasons why he became this way. Go into that a bit more with the flashbacks. Does the town have a lot of bigotry against disabled people because of the established like over-worship of a church and distrust of doctors? Do they see it as like, you must be in with those evil doctors because you've consented to this unnatural surgery instead of just praying to regrow a new leg? Once you think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense how people act this way, but I guess in real life you have irrational cults too. I'm sure there's ways you could make it work if you developed it more. Can Seil help impact the reputation of disabled people around town as he gains reputation with his helpful detective agency during the day? And that can add even more to the big low moment where everyone finds out he's Shadow Knight. They feel betrayed and public opinion of disability drops. Actually, yeah, let's do it. Let's replace the damn twist reveal. The whole Seil turns evil because one man knows he's disabled arc. Instead, it's a way more justified reason he loses all hope. That never happens during the plot. None of the people who aren't already in on the thievery ever find out. And I think that's a really wasted opportunity. Perhaps the same disability reveal can still be there, but it's more of like a catalyst for this bigger reveal. Everyone realizes Shadow Knight is Seil because the enemy knocks off his prosthetic leg, and like, he's the only guy in town who has one because of how stigmatized they are. So it's like instantly recognizable, even though in this version he would be in an actual disguise. That's a good way that this big sad moment could also cause him to backslide into hating himself for his disability, and have it happen on an actual plot important mission. Green Sephiroth isn't just some rando Seil wants to beat to become the best thief. He's actually one of the villains who was doing something super bad. Seil had to fight him to save someone. Maybe one of the orphan kids got held hostage. Like, it's a real, like, do I risk ruining my whole life, exposing myself in this way, but letting someone I really care about die, or do I do the heroic thing even if we have its serious consequences? And then it plays out the saddest way possible. Seil does make a sacrifice, he does get his identity revealed, he tries to save the orphan kid, but he still loses to Green Sephiroth. Green Sephiroth frames him for the crime, and Seil is unable to escape on his broken leg, so he gets caught. In the eyes of townsfolk, it's just been revealed that the big nice detective they all trusted was a horrible criminal who's so repugnant he'd hurt his own little sibling for money. Nobody listens to the kid trying to tell him that some stranger nobody saw was a real criminal. They're obviously just brainwashed by Seil's lies. Maybe they even get taken away from Seil. Like, he struggles to escape from prison, he runs back home, runs back to the orphanage, to find that even his adoptive mother believes the lies about him and she's forbidding him from ever seeing his brothers and sisters again. And what would make it even more sad? Maybe one of the orphan kids also has a prosthetic in this universe. Maybe they gained it during the story because Seil gaining more confidence in his disability helped him to convince someone else to take the medical needs they needed. At the time it was uplifting, you see this kid living happily, learning to walk again. Maybe they have a different prosthetic, learning to use their arm again. And now because of him, everyone in the town is now treating his sibling like shit for having this thing in common with him, the #1 criminal. It would be the worst irony, it'd be the best way to kickstart a character arc. All his boastful goals in the beginning to become the greatest thief came true at the worst possible consequence. Now that is a scene I think would justify flipping the fuck out and going evil for a chapter. Like, everyone's already convinced I'm evil, I may as well live up to it. Instead of just trying to be stronger to beat a guy he met 5 minutes ago, he's trying to go out in a blaze of glory. He's trying to find someone who can kill him. If he can never go back to his normal life, he can end the legend of this infamous criminal the way everyone wants it to. He's so lost in despair he thinks maybe my family will be treated better again if I'm removed from the picture. And Seana stops him by being the only one who still believes in him, by giving him a big damn hug and assuring him she's going to keep fighting for him to the end. This time she'll be the one to protect him. She'll find a way to take revenge on that arsehole and clear Seil's name. If you don't believe in yourself, know what I do. I've never stopped since we were kids. And that's where the big reveal, the big flashback happens of Seana being his childhood friend, him saving her and getting injured instead of an unrelated person like in canon. Heck, maybe in this universe he didn't realise Seana was the same person, so it's a surprise to him too. We could play more up into that, the mystery of why Seana seems to know him and he doesn't know her, etc. I'll go into that when we get to Seana's section. That was just a hypothetical idea I had. But anyway, we have the flashback playing at the most dramatically important moment, the big catharsis of ending it with Seil finally dropping his sword, falling into her arms and believing that things truly can get better again. And don't immediately just go back to the status quo being fine right after. In this version, it'd mark an actual change in how the story and gameplay unfolds from here on. You can't do daytime missions at all, and your home base changes to hiding inside the Thief Guild and working on more serious plans to take the fight to the main villains. The endgame actually gets going a lot earlier, and you feel a real change in both the tone of the plot and how the game even functions. Instead of just having new character portraits for Seil for one single mission, and a cool integrated interface cutting off side missions, again for one mission, it keeps going for a longer section and you really feel the emotions. But I think it would be too much to completely lock off all side missions till the end, so you could just have it when you're doing a side mission, it's now framed as a flashback, you're going back to before that all happened. And you could also unlock a new tier of side missions taking place during this sad point of the plot. Exclusive new thief missions to gain new allies amongst the thief community, and Seil adapting to living in the criminal underworld exclusively. Does he have to make any sacrifices? Have a mission trying to sneak secretly over to the orphanage and drop a birthday present in through the window without getting caught. Because even though he knows logically he should keep hidden, he can't bear his little sister having the worst birthday ever thinking he's evil. There's lots of potential. Also just throwing out there, I think it'd be neat if Seil could customise his prosthetic with extra cool functions to help his thief job. Mega jumps across the rooftops, missile kicks, a hook shot out of his boot, knife toes. I don't know, man, you say Phantom Thief with a robot leg, and I expect it would play into the gameplay somehow. You could just frame like all the same upgrades, thief tools, just as things that are part of a prosthetic. It could be purely applied in tech, and it would just be a cool way of integrating this trait about the character into the story. It would also really help with adding more positivity about his disability, and making it feel more natural that he gains more confidence in it as the story goes on. Like, you could link the euphoric power of a prosthetic giving you back a normal life with the concept of Phantom Thief representing true freedom in his eyes. Have him still initially think when his life is over when he loses his leg, because I mean, he's a kid, he doesn't know anything about it, he's lived in a town where everyone tells him that his life is going to be over. If magic can't heal it, nothing can. But instead of just using a cane that's so shameful I want to die, it's him gaining the cane being the first moment he gets his hope back. We developed the world building a bit more in this like anti-doctor town. He didn't even know prosthetics existed, crutches and canes aren't commonly seen on like every grandpa NPC, just as an example. But everyone in the orphanage chipped in every scrap of money they had to import this weird unknown technology from another city. It's like a magic staff, but it's not. They did this at a great cost to themselves just for a chance to see like their little brother smile again. And so when he takes his first step outside the house in weeks on the crutches, he breaks down crying in happiness. He gains the resolve back to keep on trying to get better every day. When he gets to do something as simple as just go into the shops with his mum again, it's the best day of his life. And like, the reason Seana travels away is instead of researching with the church and only later finding out that they're corrupt and stuff, maybe in this version she's less of a spellcaster and more like a gadgeteer genius. She sees how much this technology has given him his life back, and she wants to go abroad and research it. She's going to learn how to make a full-on prosthetic leg for him so he can run and play again just like he remembered. And when he gets that from her, he gets so into athletics that he starts doing full-on parkour. He begins his dreams of becoming a Phantom Thief. His disability aids aren't the cause of his problems, they're the thing that gives him back his independence in this tough old life. So he starts off being really positive about them as a child, but as he grows up he has to face the cruel reality that bigots will treat him awfully because of this thing that's done nothing but improve his life. So maybe that's why as he grows up he starts hiding that he has a prosthetic leg, he has more complex feelings about his disability, and it leads to how things start at the beginning of the game. But when he's free at night, jumping across the buildings, he can't help but feel that childhood joy. From the first moment he could run again. This leg gave him his freedom back, and he's going to restore freedom to the whole town. I don't know, I just think that'd be neat. That'd be a way to tie all the plot points together. Oh, also in this version, there wouldn't be such a stark divide between how he's uber positive and oblivious, turns evil for one chapter, and then just completely back again. It would just be a simple case of this character has always been more complex than he seems. He acts like he's optimistic and he has no problems, when really he's living in this heroic delusion as a way to escape the realities of the things he's worried about. He feels almost like he needs to become someone else in order to truly be the spirit of freedom that he wants. He bottles up all his depression, he tries to always smile to make Seana think he's okay, and when he reaches a breaking point and he can't hide it anymore, it causes him to lash out. Maybe you could foreshadow small moments and little side quests where he's confident when everything seems to be going his way. When things fail, he freaks out a bit and he gets close to snapping over things that seem small to anybody else. You get the sense he has to psych himself up to keep on acting the way he usually is. Maybe it's not truly him. Maybe it's just as much of a mask as his Phantom Thief one. Classic, just sprinkle the seeds. But then, after the big change of the status quo where Seana brings him down from his darkest moment, he learns to open up about his anxieties and be honest when he's sad, becomes a fully rounded character. He doesn't have to pretend to be happy all the time in order to be loved. Just like Seana learns she doesn't have to pretend to be cold and distant to avoid getting hurt. When she learns to open up about her softer side, she can save him too. It's all about the power of emotional honesty. And also, I think this would be a good point to start their romance earlier and have a bit more depth to it, in my opinion. Speaking of Seana, gonna just preface this with, I think the plot could still work exactly the same if she was just exactly the same. These are just my suggestions of how she could possibly be changed to mesh more, foreshadow more things that are happening in Seil's side of the plot. So my first idea is maybe make her not also a thief and in canon supposed to be a better thief than him. If you want to justify her having such a reduced role in the battles, that would make so much sense. Because it is so frustrating to just have a character who is overpowered and good and cool, and they just have to make terrible excuses to take her out of the plot in order to make bosses more difficult. It's like sacrificing her emotional story growth for the sake of Seil's gameplay, in a game where the gameplay is already terrible, so just don't. So anyway, my suggestion, make her initially at the start of the game a non-combatant assistant character. Maybe she's the secretary or the manager of the thief crew. She's the real mastermind behind the scenes, like Chairman Rose's assistant Oleana. She still gets a plot role of being the one who's the real badass, the one who's even cooler than Seil, but it's in like a different genre of thing, so it makes sense that he's still the one who does all the battles. Plus, all her sassy behaviour berating Seil for his showboating would make a lot more sense if like her whole job is to be here and make the business more efficient. Heck, you can exaggerate that to be a sort of she's not so different moment, an endearing trait. Her treating battles like nothing but a business causes her to make equally irrational decisions in the opposite direction. Seil almost wrecks the mission because he wants to leave a calling card to boast to everybody. She's like, of course that's terrible. You could use the time to be itemising a spreadsheet of everything we've stolen. They have more of an equal back and forth where both of them end up messing up the mission sometimes. And it doesn't seem like she's just being mean to him for no reason because it's an anime trope. They just have legit reasons to argue. They have mutually exclusive philosophies about the job. And I think the player would be endeared to her much faster if she wasn't always perfect. You wouldn't have to wait until the moment where the romance gets established to see a softer side of her. As for her in battle, this would be a better justification for her feeling the same role of being not a full party member and just a special move you use sometimes. Instead of magic, call it the support card. She throws items, she uses trickery to distract the opponent. She could even use like an actual thief move to steal an item for them because seriously, you play a whole game as thieves and you don't have that. And then it could set up for being really cool if she gets promoted to a full party member later on. Maybe as I floated around before, instead of learning magic, she fights with like cool steampunk technology because she learned how to make prosthetics. She could have all kinds of crazy gadgets like a combination of a mad scientist and Riku from Final Fantasy X. Or maybe she's still been trained to learn magic to protect Seil, but she hasn't mastered it yet at the start of the game. Maybe that's her character arc. Perhaps, I don't know, magic reacts to emotion and hers never works because in the trauma over what happened, she's like repressed all her personality and she always tries to act serious and cold and perfect. She pushes Seil away instead of admitting she cares about him. So her being honest and them falling in love helps awaken her powers in a big mushy lovely scene. Something cute of, I don't know, dancing with him and she suddenly realises they're floating, literally dancing in the stars. It'd be romantic as fuck and also potentially have a really funny ending. I'm imagining Seil like freaks out when he notices her levitating, jumps into a bridal carry Scooby-Doo style, which then flips them both off balance and they both fall down into a hedge. And they're just laughing and laughing and laughing, all potential is gone, there is nothing left but joy and love. She finally told him how she feels and her true strength is awakened so she can protect him too. And Seil is like, what are you talking about? You've always been protecting me. Then he goes in for the big old kiss and we end on the happiest note possible. Don't you wish everyone could unlock magical powers by the audience clapping? I also think that her backstory showed a lot of promise, but it needs more screen time and a little bit of work to make it make more logical sense. The fact that we get it delivered so fragmented in the final game means that you have to exert effort to even figure out what happened, and in that process you'll realise all the holes. So first of all, big fucking major change, makes Seana the one that Seil saved at the cost of his leg. It makes no sense why she developed a complex over protecting him if he didn't even protect her in the first place. She never failed to protect him. I wasn't able to magic your wound closed. Yeah, but why would that be your responsibility more than the actual adults? They're the ones who failed to get a doctor. It makes sense for a kid to react irrationally in the moment, but doesn't really make sense to hold on to this for your entire life. So I think we'd all benefit from just streamlining this into a single plot point. Seana is already studying magic with the church at this point. The thing that almost kills her isn't a unrelated accident of a falling eye beam, it's a magic spell gone wrong. She rushed recklessly to master something she wasn't ready for and almost got killed. Seil saves her and she realises for the first time that healing magic can't fix disabilities or illnesses. The church has been hiding that and had never told her. Bam! She feels immense guilt for him getting hurt, she feels it's her personal responsibility, and she's also gotten disillusioned with the church now and has a reason that she'll leave on a big self-discovery journey. She notices for the first time that the town doesn't have any doctors because they just believe prayer will solve anything, running through the town like struggling to carry Seil's like bloodied body in her arms, begging all the adults to help, and they just tell her to keep doing what she always did, just pray for it. Her and the orphanage matron manage to improvise as much treatment as they can to save Seil's life from bleeding out, but he loses his leg forever. And Seana loses her ability to use magic because it's locked off by her emotional barriers, and that causes her to feel even more useless. This spurs her to make the extreme decision to suddenly leave Seil all alone. She's running off to find the truth of the world, find a better way. And in my interpretation, that would be going to whichever other country does actually have doctors and develop prosthetics and stuff, and learning steampunk magitech stuff. Because honestly, it's kind of a plot hole how Seil has like such a perfect prosthetic leg that lets him leap over buildings and shit in a society that supposedly has low development for non-magical methods of healing. Perhaps how Seil is going through his arc learning how to use crutches and a cane. Seana is off training and research with some kind of cool mad scientist mentor. Hell, you could put Jessica in that role. Take her out of the backstory, she doesn't really play a role anyway. Age her up a bit, she's like an older mentor and a friend of Seana. Anyway, Seil suddenly gets a mysterious package in the mail with a prosthetic fit exactly to his leg. He has no idea that Seana's been learning all this to help him. She didn't say why she was leaving at the time. She hides her identity out of shame, and she doesn't know if she can ever face him again until, like, she's mastered the art of science. But along the way of that training, she's been helping him all along. She's been, like, sending little messages, and he doesn't know it's from her. So then that also fills the hole of how Seana just, like, left, and then, like, came back off screen at some point before the game started. And we don't even really know how long they spent apart, how they felt about it, or anything. Here, let's make that more of a plot. Have her come back for the first time exactly at the point the game starts. But she's in disguise. She still doesn't have the courage to face Seil. Maybe the intro is still the same cool Phantom Thief escape, but like, Seil is on his own, he fails the wall sensor, and some mysterious person saves him. She says he's heard of Shadow Knight's great reputation, and also his secret cataclysmic failures. Mwahaha, my organization's been watching over you all along, and they've decided you need a secretary to turn your work into a proper business. So basically, the beginning of the game with her is just a funny weirdo who barges into the story and the player doesn't really know why. A subversion of the manic pixie dream girl trope, where it's a manic pixie dream boy having a serious person brighten up his life for the better. The early chapters can have a lot more structure because we see like them bonding and we get the hints that maybe she already knew him and stuff like that. You can even have the same boring mission to find a cat, but it's more a focus on the characterization as you do it. And then it's a great surprise to discover later that you had this deeper backstory together and she had a more serious reason to join the crew. As for why Seil wouldn't recognise her, just randomly bowling this out here, what if the friend he saved as a kid was a boy? He doesn't know that his childhood bestie grew up to be trans and that she was in love with him even back then. She just wasn't able to say it yet. Or if we don't want to throw some positive queer rep into a game of a million negative gay characters, just say she looks really different now she's grown up. She dyed her hair, she's skinnier or chubbier, she had a really big growth spurt. I don't know, even go for the anime cliche of, oh, you grew up to have big boobs and I didn't expect that. Whatever. Or you could even go full silly with a Phantom Thief theme and have her be the masked secretary. Just spends the whole game looking super silly like Phantom Renegade in a dress. Hell, a luchador mask, a knight helmet, and some mascot character. I think there's a lot of inherent comedy potential in having a really generic design with one silly feature. It's played up so comedic that you never really stop to question, like, why is it that she won't show Seil her true identity? So when it's revealed later she did have a genuine reason behind it, it's like, oh, I didn't expect even the jokes would be part of the cool backstory. Or maybe she's a master of disguise. She's always undercover and we never know which one is the real her. Every chapter is a different randomised NPC sprite. That'd be a cool way to have this kind of thing while also not having to make any new art assets. Either way, we have the inevitable big heartwarming reveal and then we use the design we have already. And in this version, instead of having her in the party less, we have more. She gains a power up, you feel the progress in their relationship reflected in the gameplay, and instead of making bosses harder by not having her be there, you just make the bosses harder. Balance them to fit around this new power up. For next section, party members. I was thinking, what if we actually had more party members aside from just Seana? Shimmy the battle system up a bit, make it potentially free in a party. She's the only permanent member you keep for the whole game and you have a rotating cast of guest characters. You meet them all during the side quests, and I don't know, by the final chapter they join you for real, you get to choose which will be the third one you take into the final fight. It would make side stories more appealing if you got like a preview chance to play with a character you don't usually have, and then you have like a long-term unlock of gaining them for real when you complete their quest chain. Prime candidates to pick for this, all the damn Thief Guild guys. We'd have more of an idea why Seil even cares about them if we spent more time on them actually acting like allies. Also the cool dragon lady, you seriously should have been part of the plot. And Catboy Awesome! Maybe even really threatening chef guy Steve, because they totally wasted that awesome NPC. And while we're at it, change the side stories to actually develop the characters. When you have such a big cast, it just seems obvious to use the extra time to flesh them out. It is so weird we just deliver mail to rando bitches instead. His section is here! Pretty much keep him the same and just treat him better. Felt is already bloody hilarious. We don't need his gayness to be the joke. We've already got his serious personality clashing with how cute he is. The lieutenant always misunderstanding his gay antics and super military plans. The fucking hilarious scene of him seeing some tense villain plot going on in the background and mistaking it for two dudes on a date. We were not hurting for comedy. Keep all that, cut the chaff. Then I also think he'd benefit from an increased plot role. In the canon game, Seil doesn't even meet him until the end. He's just an unrelated guy we occasionally pan over to see him do something funny whenever I guess the writers needed to fill time. I don't know, man, we could have that already if you just make him a recurring mini-boss. It'd be much easier to make jokes if Seil knows who the heck this dude is. So I'm imagining him kinda like Team Rocket, the not very evil minion of a big scarier boss who messes up all the silly missions of the day in endearing ways. He's never really a threat and you're hoping he'll turn good in the end because he's just so lovable. And then we actually get to see that! Instead of just saying he left President Lady and opened a cosplay shop off screen, make it a whole plot chapter. Have him grow like a begrudging respect for Seil and Seana throughout the adventures they have together, and he switches sides to help fight back against his former boss. That way he's really earned his happy end. Also, give us some actual answers with Maid Man Boyfriend. It is very unclear in canon whether Luden is actually queer too, or if he's just too scared of his totally scary boss's totally serious cross-dressing plan to, say no. Honestly, he's an underrated part of the hilarity. Felt wouldn't be nearly as funny without this metaphorical straight man taking all his nonsense completely seriously. It's always funny how normal Luden clearly thinks he is, yet he's the one who's the real silly ditz. It's a nice subversion of what you'd expect from such a standard secretary in a suit looking design. But even though that stuff is hilarious, it's still a shame to just end the game without it resolved. So my idea is we'd have some big climactic scene of Maid Man finally realising his boss isn't serious at all. Maybe we could tug on the heartstrings slightly. Have Catboy Awesome stealing his nerves to finally be honest and just admit he has a crush on this man. But then some zany circumstance reveals the secret outside of his control. And he gets the momentary angst of worrying, has my subordinate lost all respect for me? Did he only like me because he mistook my silliness for strategic manoeuvres? Have I just been living in an illusion that we had a deeper bond? But of course it would all resolve wholesomely and we end with them closer than ever. If hypothetically you want to end it as Luden being straight all along, you could still make it really sweet. He lets Fal down easy and instead, they become genuine friends, not just co-workers. Have him show his boss he accepts him for his true self and it's not any less badass just because he's the big cute gay. In fact, this is way cooler than the scary guy I thought you were. You can throw in a brief joke of Felt looking grumpy at the insinuation he isn't scary. Luden goes eep and recoils, but then Felt actually grabs him in a big old hug and starts manly crying. Reveal that he never wanted to be scary from the beginning. He had no awareness this was even happening, his face just looks like that. For extra comedy gold you could draw his crying face super manly sports anime style. But of course, personally, I just prefer the simple answer. Maid Man Boyfriend reciprocates, they run into each other's arms, big whirling hug of shoujo petals and joy, Catboy Awesome, Princess carries him into the sunset, and everyone clapped. Bring it into the gameplay even. They become a battle couple, a dual party member that takes up one slot, and you could get to use that in the cool fight to stop their anti-hero boss. Absolute peak cinema. And now just wrapping up with, the extra story things I didn't cover anywhere else. Since this is mostly a character piece, I kind of covered most of it. But for the rest, just lean more into how this city is a fucking dystopian hellhole. Don't hide it away as just NPC dialogue, make that the actual villain. This is a town neglected by the government. People have to steal to live. Phantom thieves are a symbol of rebellion for a better future. And Seil wants to become this to inspire everyone to believe that we can escape the shitty system someday. Literally just delete Sephiroth number 2 from the plot. New villain, anyone remotely connected to the problem of the land, actually confront the awful rulers, make that the final boss. You could even just reuse that sprite of post-game bonus boss church lady and just have her be some kind of ruler we fight. Or I don't know, the ruler of the Empire just happens to look like Punch Sephiroth with a lightsaber. Whatever. Insane crack theory that came to me while making this video. The first quest of the game is trying to capture a blonde cat. What if, hear me out, Felt is secretly a real Catboy and it was him in disguise all along? Obvious disclaimer, I know this isn't canonically intended. He doesn't come over in a boat until like chapter 5 or 6. But I think if this insane thing happened to be true, it would actually have been really fun. It would have made that really annoying quest like actually mean something. Because seriously, it's not a good idea to just start your game with what is essentially filler. It also would have made their boss, female president lady, seem even more intimidating and cool, because she'd been planning things out that early, sending one of her soldiers to spy on us in secret cat form. It could be like bloody Puss in Boots. I was always there! But yeah, this setting doesn't seem to have any like non-human fantasy races, so it wouldn't really work. It's still funny though. And while we're at it, hey, I'll talk about all the stupid fan art you've seen on the screen the whole video. Did you particularly want my development notes on the time I spent 1.5 days drawing nothing but the same ship? Well, shut up, you're gonna get it anyway. This one's the first one I drew, and it's just like, that's it, that's the establishment, that's a shipping appeal. Mostly just intended for anyone who hadn't actually watched the previous video and needed a quick primer on the characters' personalities. Another in that vein, also just an excuse to draw Felt in a Pride outfit. I made this up from like looking at all the reference pictures I could find, like all the craziest Pride outfits. Why not all of them at once? Also, you can't really tell because it's a back pose, but like Luden in like a butler outfit instead of a maid. I can't remember if they actually showed you, like however briefly, what he looked like before putting the outfit on. You do get that with Felt, you get that brief snippet in the opening cutscene, but I like to imagine look like an office guy or a butler or just something that would thematically match well. VTB. This was just a space-filling hug because I had some more paper left. I just cannot get away with drawing any ship without drawing the cliche milkshake day. I just really find it cute. This one here was a meme redraw requested by my friend Demo Real System on Discord. Thank you so much, buddy, for supporting my nonsense. What if Felt picked a different animal for his cosplay? I thought it'd be cute if he wasn't just swapping out the ears and like maybe the outfit's a little bit different too. Then cosplaying as Seil and Seana. This is because my original plan was like just to have one drawing like for each section of the video. There's gonna be another one for the gameplay section, I'll get to that after. But then I realised looking at just one picture for the whole like runtime of all my blabber would be kind of boring, so I just kind of went, I'll draw some more. And then I didn't stop for almost 2 days. I got the opposite problem, now they're a bit too crammed in. Anyway, for the Seil cosplay, I tried to make little tiny modifications to the outfit to think like what would suit their personalities. For Felt, you can see still has the cat ears, but like they're the same colour as the shirt collar thing that Seil has. And I decided to put like another one of those like a handkerchief to like invoke the cat tail. With Luden, I just gave him like the swapped colour scheme, and instead of lines, he's got like squiggles on his arms. I also thought it'd be funny if his weapons were a pen and pencil because, again, he just has secretary vibes. It might be hard to notice, but on his belt there's also a tiny briefcase. For the Seana one, the poses are more bland because, like, I want to show off the outfit a bit more. I made much more alterations this time. Luden's got more of, like, an office blazer rather than, like, the overcoat and a shorter cape to match. I also moved a little bow thing on the cape up to his head because he has that bow thing when he's in maid mode. I figured he would wear, like, several layers of wig to equal Seana's hair length. So that's why they're slightly different colours. I thought they would just look cool. For Felt, it's mostly just, like, adding cat themes back into the outfit. He's still wearing his little paw boot. We've got paw patterns everywhere. The clasp on the cape is a cat face. He's got bells in his ponytail, and his staff is just based on Digimon from Digimon, but a cat. There you are, sleepy boys. More having fun drawing them in different cosplay outfits, here we have some jammy jams. I figure Luden would wear completely normal pyjamas, and Felt would of course be as extra as always. I also just wanted to use it as a pose to show that Luden is like equally as happy about the relationship as Felt is, even if he's usually not as expressionate. I feel like maybe the psychological root of why he's always falling for Felt's like, we have to do the gay thing, it's for our mission. They're like, oh boss, you're so smart and perfect, you could never be wrong, and it's like a hero worship of him. Luden's maybe more oblivious to his own feelings and doesn't realise like it's all coming from the same place. But after they start dating, they would just both be over the moon about it. Also, this pose was originally going to be the headliner for the gameplay section of the video. I kind of went too ambitious for my skill level. I imagined like a complex pose of like them sitting together, hugging each other, and both like using the same video game controller. Like Luden's holding it, and then Felt's coming around, like his hands holding it too, and they're all like, ooh, and it's cute. I hope you can imagine what I'm talking about. It's basically this pose, but way more complex. And I couldn't manage it, but I wanted to salvage like the sketches I did in the process of failing, so I just thought it's just a regular hug now, and for no apparent reason, pajamas. He lift, he boif. This is another one I don't have much to say. I just thought this was a really cute pose to do. I've actually never drawn a pose like this, so I'm actually quite proud I managed to pull it off in a, I guess, mostly decent way. You could probably see anatomy errors on this. I'm sure it's much more obvious to you guys in the audience, but I think it came out, at least it looks cute. It may not be perfect, but it's like, it conveys the level of overwhelming joy that I wanted. Felt to just be really happy to like show off his strength in the positive way now. So I was headcanon, he feels a bit sad whenever Luden's intimidated by him and goes like, yes boss, yes sir, your plan is so good and serious, and oh yes, and like, it's like, how obvious do I have to make it to make you realise? And now everything's all out in the open, like he doesn't have to worry, he can just like, they can just both be themselves and they can be honest and they can like, hi, I'm buff and I'm being cool for you, my boyfriend, and it's totally okay for you to say, yeah, that's awesome. And also just, you can have hugs. Hugs are great. Hugs all time. I've made so many of these just different poses of hugs, and I'm sorry about that. Oh, that was also part of what I did with the Pride one, was it? I was like, what is the peak of how obvious Felt could be while Luden is still oblivious? Sweetheart! Hun! Yes, hun! This was just a joke of like, what if even after dating they're a little bit awkward and they still like use military terms? Aside from this, I was thinking like other ideas of like, meet at 0800 for our date. I have made an itemized list of every mission we shall accomplish. Like sticking super rigidly like, now we shall go and watch the movie. Now we shall go to the pub and have a beer. You will enjoy precisely 3 glasses of martini. Oh no, we're 0.2 seconds off our time. We can't do it anymore. I headcanon neither of them has like very much experience of like relationships, so they are a bit dorky and cute in this way. If I had like the skills to do a whole full comic or something, it would probably be around that concept. They both try and plan out the most perfect date ever, and they realise like by being so overly rigid to schedules, they've actually ruined it, and neither of them is having fun and just getting really stressed out. And like have a big emotional moment, have a good talk through, and it's like their first step towards like figuring out each other's boundaries in a relationship, how we're going to do things going forward, and it's wholesome and sweet. But I suck so much at doing like paneling, I wouldn't be able to pull it off. As you can see by like, this is probably like the worst drawing in the whole thing. I can't get over how Luden like becomes smaller and bigger in the 2 panels. I really didn't intend that. I just have really poor spatial awareness. I didn't notice until it was already finished. I also didn't think to use a ruler to make the panels actually line up in a proper square. Relatedly, backstory moment. I want to establish after that one, in case I like gave a false impression, I thought that like they didn't have a positive relationship back when they were just in the army, like, because obviously I had to draw Felt like yelling to make the joke work, like, you lieutenant and all that. But I think even long before they had this weird cosplay escapade, they were already like mutually crushing on each other for quite a while, and it took Felt a long time to realise that he was like accidentally being like really flirty and romantic with Luden in moments like this. I thought it'd be funny if Luden was the first one who caught the feelings, and then he's the one who takes the longest to realise it's mutual. So here's just an example of a random day in the life. I'll save you, Lieutenant! I'll never let you go! Why is your face red? Are they using poison arrows? Probably Luden just skinned his knee and was totally fine, but he's going along with a Princess Carrie because who could say no? Oh, and Falk's outfit here is based on, canonically, what we see of his, like, pre-cosplay outfit in the opening cutscene, but because of the lighting, you can't tell what colour scheme it has, so I kind of just guessed. I also couldn't really tell if he was wearing a shirt or if he had a bare chest, so I just went with that because I think it just fits his personality better. Even if he was in a 100% boring uniform, he had to have just one little bit of flamboyant. And then Falk's uniform as a lieutenant, I just completely made it up. I also did worry if pushing the expression for Luden a bit too much here makes it not recognisable as him, because like his hair is also puffed up and everything, but I think sometimes you just need to go full silly. Also, who else would it be? The entire rest of the thing is about dating Luden. Sometimes my anxiety makes no sense. And then here we have the highly specific picture with like so many notes on it. This is an AU crossover with SLRPG or SLA RPG or Super Lesbian Animal RPG, however you pronounce it. Another one I'm doing in a Random RPG Maker marathon. At the time I'm posting this video, I probably haven't finished editing that yet, so it will go out after this. But just know that's a game I've been following for like many years, and it's great, and I'm a huge fan of it, and they treat gay people a lot better, so I just thought whenever I see a character who gets really bad homophobic jokes, I'm just going to mentally imagine and project them into either that or in Stars and Time. But in Stars and Time has less potential for funny AU drawing, so I went with this. Felt just looks 99% the same, except he's a lion man. I also simplified a bit of the design and the colour scheme for his outfit to make it fit more in the art style of the game. Luden though was really hard to figure out, and I went more for like a thematic idea rather than more physical resemblance. I don't know why I immediately hit on he would be a bird, but there you go. I was originally planning it for me to like be more normal, like a blue jay or like a magpie or something, depending on if I wanted to go for like the colour scheme of the maid outfit or like the blue ribbons. And I remember there's a bird which has a big blue spot on it and is really insane, so there we go. So that took the design in a much more zany direction. The Supreme Bird of Paradise, they really look like that they just turn into an emoji whenever they're hitting on someone. And I thought it would thematically represent well with like, Luden is the one who looks the most normal and serious, but he's like the most zany and ditzy of the two of them. And here it's more like he looks like a regular bird, but he's actually got like super crazy powers. Also the idea of him trying to hide his feelings, but then he can't because he just poofs up into a gigantic emoji. So I decided to justify that by saying he's half beast folk and half elemental. I could have just said he's a supreme bird of paradise beast folk because they're just already like that, but I felt it would feel a bit unbalanced for the world if we just said that one random species of bird has like way more cool powers than all the rest, even if in real life that is just how it works. Supreme Bird of Paradise, you're not good for power scaling. So yeah, he's half bird, half shadow star creature. Rather than an exact one-to-one of the emoji design, he turns into like this wraith-looking thingy and the smiley is the core in the centre. I based that on the water wraith and fire spirit enemies, and also the fact that the only elementals we actually see as NPCs in the game are plant elementals, and they both have a little dot in their forehead, which is also shared by water wraith and fire spirit. So that made me think hypothetically, if we saw like a good guy fire and water elemental, would they look like those enemies? Is this a universal trait of the species? So I put here, he has like the little dot on his forehead, he just covers it up with his bangs. And his cloak has some kind of like magic perception filter which makes him look like a regular bird. But whenever he opens it, he can turn into spirit form again. Aside from that, the only easy tell to think, oh, there's something a little weird with this guy, is his beak doesn't actually originate from any logical point on his face. It's always just drawn as like the outside of the circle, and it can move anywhere depending on his emotions. And it doesn't have to follow any actual connection to where a mouth would normally be. It also never actually opens because it's not a mouth, it's just a Cthulhu tentacle he's pretending is a beak. Oh, and the pattern thing you see on like the scrunched up Supreme Bird of Paradise form, that's the bow around his neck, which is also the only thing in common with his outfit in the original game. I don't know what I'd really do about their plot because they kind of have a similar dynamic to Melody and Allison, like the main couple of the game already. A shy healer and an eccentric fighter. But they also have an interesting contrast in their own way. Because Felt is just as sporty and strong and boisterous as Allison is, but also he's super femme and loves cuteness, whereas she's a classic butch action girl. And then we have Luden, who's just as shy as Melody, but also his shyness is about having like secret overwhelming apocalypse power that he's trying to hold in place, like learn how to master so he won't hurt anyone, whereas Melody starts off weak and has to learn to become strong. So I thought the best scenario to put these guys in this universe would be like, I don't know, a post-game, a sequel, an epilogue of the original RPG. We flash ahead a few years to see how everyone's doing, and these two come along as like, Felt like, has heard stories of Melody and like hero worships her and is like, I want to be an adventurer who's super cute too, take me as your apprentice, master. And it could lead into various silly adventures. A great way to see how everyone's grown since the end of the game by comparing them to like these metaphorical representations of their original self in chapter 1. Well, also I think they just have enough appeal in the design and personality to just be enjoyable characters in their own right. In conclusion, if I knew how to make a fan game, I would. But instead I'm just going to imagine this is a canonical happy ending for them in my mind. They somehow travel dimensions and they live in the big gay paradise. The end. And also here's just the big gay hugs. Oh, also here's just big confession time. Another case of me wanting to try out an unusual pose I haven't done before. I'm not sure if I necessarily pulled it off very well. I was impressed I managed to get this like complex, like halfway being turned around flowing dress look for Luden. But I really think I messed up his face and I'm sorry about that. Don't have much practice with like 3/4 view faces and like how the nose would work in that situation. I tried to go with a bit of 3D effect, it just makes it look like his nose melts into his forehead and I'm really sorry. It's entirely my fault for drawing in marker pens. I couldn't go back and fix it. I just hope earlier in the video when I was having that big emotional moment, it wasn't too blatantly obvious the art mistake and it didn't take away from everything. But still, someday when I'm more talented, I should redraw this. And so with that, we end our Sacred Tears True journey. I've probably reached a limit of stuff I can say about this game, but I'd love to hear everybody else's suggestions in the comments. Now next time we'll be moving on to a different game. Random RPG Maker continues!